let's get into what we actually came here to talk about, which is the MVP discussion. It's really coming down to three people. I really feel like it's coming down to two people this season.
Yeah.
What?
I just think it's like over. You know, yeah, I just think it's over. Yeah, like
okay, so let's move on.
Yeah, that's it. So, I mean, we could talk about. It seems like Jokic is coming off. He's coming off a title year.
Mm-hmm.
He was. He's once again is just beating the living shit out of every metric. I mean, I think the only.
Not true. He's not number one in EPM this year.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm. Wow. No, that's the thing. Is like last year it was, let's look at the metrics, and Jokic was number one in every single one. And there really wasn't an argument if you wanted to argue just based on metrics. It was like he was one in EPM, he was one in BPM, he was one in. He even became number one in Darko, which is like a multi-year stat.
Yeah,
that does the whole career. He jumped Joel Embiid last year. So I do think that if you want to make the metrics argument this year, it's a little bit harder. Joel was better before he got hurt, but he got hurt, so that doesn't matter. SGA is currently better in EPM with a 9 plus 9.4. Giannis is actually third with a plus 7.7. Luka is actually fourth. This is the worst. By EPM, someone could correct me if I'm wrong here. By EPM, I believe this is the worst Jokic season since before he won MVP. I don't have access to multi-year EPM here, but if someone does, Jokic is fifth behind Luka, Giannis, SGA, and then Embiid. The thing is, if you go by estimated wins, which removes Joel from there, Shea is still first. Shea is first with 17.8. Giannis is 7 with 15.6. Luka is 15.4 at number 4, and Jokic is fourth. All things considered here, I don't really care about the metrics argument because I think that that's just one factor that you have to take into account. I couldn't explain to you how EPM works. But yeah, someone did confirm. This is his worst year in EPM since 2019, 2020, the year before he won MVP for the first time. Still, I stand on my point. I couldn't explain to you how BPM works. I couldn't explain to you how EPM works. I couldn't explain to you why all of this shit even really matters all that much. Despite the fact that there's obviously some evidence to the fact that, like, these have clearly been the 5 best players in the NBA this season, and they're all at the top of EPM. So there might be a little bit of validity behind that. But statistically, Jokic is having a very, very good season. For Jokic, it's not quite as good as some of his other seasons. For the average best player, it's still one of the best seasons of all time because he's been on this tear for like 4 years where he's really one of the best offensive players we've ever seen. And actually, in the past, his defensive metrics have been better than they've been this year, especially in EPM. It's actually the defensive stuff that has dipped a little bit, and the offensive stuff is around where it usually is. But long story short on this, if you're going just based on metrics, SGA actually has an argument. And Giannis even has an argument if you want to go based on EPM and all these different metrics. But BPM is the one where Jokic truly dominates. Like he wins it literally every year. And I know that some of that is like apparently it heavily weights assists for your position, and Jokic creates like high quality looks because he's a center who gets assists. And he creates a lot of open layups and blah, 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 whatever. But long story short here, I do think SGA and even Giannis have more of an argument than anyone's given. It just feels like everyone has decided Jokic is the best player, so there can be no other argument. And I don't agree with that. I do think SGA has a legit case.
I think, I don't know. I mean, I'm just talking about like how voters look at this stuff. I think everyone kind of has some egg on their face. I think Jokic winning the title after not getting MVP last year to like not get 3 in a row. I think people like Bill, people like Rosillo, they're made up. That's in pen already. Sure. They've already filled out Jokic in pen, and that there's a large portion of those people are going to be like there for some of that stuff. Now you have like the stat nerd people, the people like Zach Lowe, the people like Kevin Pelton. You know, you have those type of guys who are going to give SGA more of a look. But I think, you know, I think these teams are going to finish with a pretty similar record. Now the Thunder are younger and newer, but I don't know that the Thunder necessarily have a weaker roster than what Jokic is carrying. Like, I think they're pretty, at worst, pretty similar in terms of talent. Kind of depends on how you feel about Jamal Murray versus like Jalen Williams. I think Jalen Williams is extremely good, and I think he's one of the most underrated. Like, and Chet are both like very underrated, and I think I would take those two over like Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. Geez, or Aaron Gordon even. You know, pick whichever, you know, the fourth person you want to put in there. I just think that Jokic is the defending champ. The best player on the championship team. It was not close. Denver was a Death Star last year. They look a lot more vulnerable this year. All of Jokic's, I just looked at all of like Jokic's like BPM, VORP, all that other stuff. He's actually having a better year by like BPM and VORP because his usage is down a little bit. So I think by the time like the rate stats catch up to like the VORP and stuff,
he only took 14 shots a game last year, which is part of the reason why his BPM wouldn't be as high. He takes 17 a game this year. He's scoring more. He's scoring more,
yeah, and like, you know, he has like these giant like true shooting like things. I mean, I don't know, like I think it's okay to like give it to Shai. I mean, Shai is having an unreal season as well. But I just don't know if voters are going to see it this way when they've never seen Shai win a playoff series as the best player on his team, or even be in a playoff series as the best player on his own team. And I think that a lot of voters are going to just going to tend towards conservatism there, and are going to
right. You're objectively correct. That's who will win the MVP.
Right.
I don't doubt that Jokic is going to win. I also don't doubt that he is the best player right now. But I don't think that's what the award should be.
It probably isn't. No.
Like, if that's the case, it's the same thing we talked about with LeBron, where it's like towards the end, yes, that was a bullshit argument because LeBron didn't give a fuck about the regular season his last like 7 or 8 years. Let's be honest. Like, but if this award were just about the best player, LeBron James would have won it every single year until he left Miami.
Right.
And
probably should have won it a couple if he wasn't like actively throwing in those Cleveland seasons. Like,
and also the fact is Jokic becomes untouchable once he wins the title. Yeah. And LeBron didn't have that until 2012 was his first title he won. So he didn't have the bulletproof I've been the best player on a title team argument.
Yeah.
In a way that Jokic has now. I think they were around the same age when they won their first title, to be completely clear.
Yeah.
But I also think that it feels like it's been a shoe-in for Jokic because he is the best player in the league right now. It also feels like it has been a shoe-in for all of the same things that you've been saying. But like, I guess my argument for SGA is like, what does he have to do to get to the point where he's like a legitimate threat to win this award? Because his counting stats, his impact stats, when you watch the games, his consistency from night to night, the fact that like he talked about it in an interview the other day, like he's just consistent every single night. He's scoring 30 no matter what. Like, it's like pretty, if you look at his game logs, I can't tell you the last time that SGA wasn't. I don't get the playoff series argument. Who gives a fuck about the playoffs if it's a regular season award? Why does that matter at all?
I mean, it shouldn't, but it does. You know,
it does. I agree. Yeah. Why does it?
Yeah, just because it rings culture and like, well, you know, like I don't know. That's because the NBA. I think everyone does kind of grasp at this point. It's the insanity that it drives everyone to have to watch 82 games, knowing that these entirely different 16 games are coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's the real issue.
So we're going further to devalue the regular season, is what you're saying.
Yes, I like honestly, like I think that part of this stuff is like people are like looking at it because people see so often. You see these guys who you watch this whole regular season where these guys put together these insane, great cases.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is good. Like this guy is one of the best players, and then you see them not do as well in the playoffs, and it's like I've been cheated. I was tricked. I was flim-flammed. I was bamboozled. Like this is
Rudy Gobert, Joel Embiid.
Sure. Right, exactly. Like, or even going further back, like LeBron had the reputation, like that before he did it. There's tons of these guys. Chris Paul has gotten strays like that. Like there are guys that James Harden, all these guys that have these absolutely bulletproof regular season awards, but there's so much value placed on the championship and what you do in the playoffs and everything like that, that it almost feels like you're being deceived, you're being tricked there, and there's like an emotional reaction to that. And I don't think fans certainly can't get past it. Voters can't get past it. And I think that is why, because I think you're absolutely right. Another thing, by the way, Giannis probably should have gotten more consideration all of these years. Giannis should have won.
I actually think Giannis's season right now is his best season since he won MVP, and it's not being talked about at all.
Yeah.
Like Giannis, I know that and a lot of people brought this up in the comments, and it is a legit thing where it's like, the league is so boomer-fied, they would never give a guy who got his coach fired halfway through the year the award. Like that's another boomer narrative thing that will just never, even if it was a legit justified firing and everyone knew Adrian Griffin had no fucking clue what he was doing. Well, and it was obvious they were winning in spite of him.
Adrian Griffin had that job because Giannis gave it to him. Like, let's be real. You know what I'm saying? Like he picked him and changed his mind. It was like, no, I actually don't like this. So
give it, he take it.
Right. The Giannis give it, the Giannis take it away. This is like, we're talking about team arguments. That is the biggest pile of dog shit team out there that is being carried by. I know Dame has some other stuff that he's good at. That's like I think the Bucks are sneaky terrible. And I'm really impressed with Giannis keeping them afloat.
The roster's names are way better than their talent.
Yes.
Damian Lillard, Chris Middleton, who's in and out of the lineup consistently, Brook Lopez, who has been better recently, but is still been kind of up and down this season. And then the depth, their bench guys are just not good. And there have been many nights where Giannis has to just go sicko mode in the fourth quarter for them to win against these fucking dog shit teams. Like we're talking about they've had to do it against like the Pistons and some of the lower, the Wizards, some of the lower ranked teams in the NBA. And the fact of the matter with Giannis is like, Giannis, okay, so my whole thing has basically been, once you win a title, the next 2 years you're scot-free. Like you get off everything, you're bulletproof, no one can argue against you. And then if things start to fall off, even if he was injured last year, they lost in the first round. Even if Chris Middleton was injured 2 years ago, they lost in the second round. The coach gets fired, Drew Holiday gets traded, Dame comes in, whatever. This is the first time where Giannis is not seeing heavy criticism, but he's getting question marks about him. And it's funny because if you look at the counting stats, because look, for Shea, and we'll talk about Shea and Jokic's counting stats in a second, but for Giannis's counting stats right now, like he is having his most efficient season, basically. He is shooting 61.5% from the field right now on 18.7 attempts per game. He's only shooting 29% from three, but he doesn't really take threes anymore, which, by the way, is something that I've been saying for years. Yeah. Don't take threes. Like it is.
You're unstoppable. The halfback dive is undefeated. Like
exactly. Dude. Yeah.
What are you doing? Yeah.
Go Derrick Henry mode, dude. You don't need to fucking play into their hands.
As someone who's been on the receiving end of a Giannis series, I literally would let out a breath of air every time. Even if he made a three, even if he shot a three and it went in, I was like, awesome. That's great. Keep doing that. That is what I wanted as an opposing fan. I didn't want them running the fucking Derrick Henry option between the center and the left tackle every goddamn time.
Exactly.
Which is what Giannis does. It's also, I'm realizing, did you realize that Giannis and Jokic had identical, back-to-back patterns? win 2 MVPs, lose MVP, win the title.
Well, that's the
win
thing.
Your first title. Yeah.
Is that the MVP curse thing has been going. I don't think there's been someone who won MVP and a championship in the same year since Steph's first title.
Yeah.
And even then, remember
KD. No, he didn't win MVP. He didn't win MVP.
He didn't win MVP.
Yeah.
So that was the last time. Steph 2015. So it's been almost a decade since a guy won MVP, went on to win the finals. And by the way, he got fucking robbed in the dumbest fucking stupid ass.
Yeah, he didn't win the finals MVP.
He didn't even win. So we haven't had a guy who's won finals MVP and MVP in the same season since I think Miami LeBron.
Yeah, I was gonna say Miami LeBron.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that was arguably the greatest peak of any player we've ever seen. And since then, it has been you either win MVP or you win finals MVP.
What was it before that? Was it like Shaq in like 03 or 04 or something like that?
Did Kobe win in 08, 09?
I think he won in 06. I think that was Kobe's last one, but let me see.
No, Kobe did not win in 06. He came in second place. They only won like 35 games that year. The only reason I know that is because I looked it up because Luka
07, 08. So they
lost. So he didn't win because they lost to the Celtics in the finals. So it was okay, gotcha. So the reason I say this is because I actually looked up that Kobe season the other day because I was saying Luka's team's better now, but Luka's basically having his 06 Kobe season where like he's never gonna win it because the team isn't good enough. But you look at the stats and you go, holy fuck. Like every other, and I know, look, some of it might be like, all right, he isn't playing great defense. Like, should we really give him, the benefit of the doubt for playing this style where he can kind of, I guess, pad his stats? But some of it is that, like, they need him to do this on pretty much an every night basis because outside of Kyrie, there really isn't anyone on that roster that's suited to create their own offense. So it kind of all has to go through Luka. So on the season, oh my God, Luka is averaging 34.6 points per game, 9.9 assists, 9 rebounds, 3.9 turnovers. He is shooting from 3. He is shooting a career high 38% on 10.4 threes attempted per game. And he's shooting 49.5% from the field. And weirdly enough with Luka, he's still only like an above average free throw shooter for a guy of his archetype. He only shoots 78.8% from the line. And that's a career high for him this year.
Yeah, like easily. Like the only other one was his sophomore year. He was like 76.
But yeah,
like his career average is 74, which is so funny.
It's a really weird thing that he is. And honestly, the 3-point shooting wasn't even like he has some really good pull-up 3-point shooting stats. Yeah. The 3-point shooting with him is always worse than you think too. But regardless, like he's having this season that statistically everyone's going to look back and go, how the fuck was he not even like he's going to come in 4th for MVP probably, I would imagine. And we're going to look back on this season, and like I said, it's his version of the 06 Kobe season, where the counting stats are fucking nuts. But the team, like, if they're the 8 seed, I could see people doing the reverse of what you were just talking about, where Luka comes in 4th place for MVP. They either play like the Timberwolves or the Thunder or something in the first round. They sneak into the playoffs as the 8 seed. And then they upset Luka goes insane and they upset him and everyone goes, wow, I can't believe we put Shea over him in MVP or whatever. Like I could definitely see that happening for Luka this season.
That I think Luka is one of the ones Luka could go either way where he could also become like the enemy of boomers. Like if he decides to like ask out, like, and he goes to like New York or something like that. Because
new villain.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm just saying. Like, Bill is going to be on this. Bill will be Bill will say, hey, when was the last time a Luka team won? When was the last time
the seeds a little bit?
Yeah.
He didn't have him on his guys that he likes to watch live list.
Yeah.
And he was like, I just don't like the heliocentric style, Rosillo.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when is this team won 50 games? Can you just win 50 games?
Because he
won 50 games. I just like Can I see
There's
it?
100% chance this happens. If
Yes.
if they
Yeah.
either lose or he requests a trade, or if they
Yeah.
either lose or he requests a trade, or whatever happens, there's 100%. He's already planting the seeds to turn on Luka.
He's I think he's setting him up. He's moving. Bill's Terminator gaze is going from Harden over to like Luka. Like that's what's happening.
You know how Windy was like, all right, LeBron's finally about to be fucking 40, and
Right,
then he sees
yeah.
Wemby and he's like, hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Wee.
Wemby. Wemby. I would die to see like Windhorst like in the fantasy section, like picking up Brandon Sanderson books to be just to like do some research to like get it out of the way. He's just like, Mistborn, huh? I'm reading that too. That Vin. She's a really good allomancer, isn't she? And when he's just like, I don't know. That Windhorst is the best, man. He's so awesome. I can't wait for him to make that move.
Sam knows that I have literally no idea what's going on when he brings up these conversations, but I let you cook because I know some of the listeners will.
Yeah, we've got some nerds out there.
ISO Sam.
Got some nerds out there. I don't even really like Sanderson. I think he stinks. He's fake. He's
washed.
Yeah, he's Russell Westbrook, the Russell Westbrook triple double season.
So he's just putting up Mickey Mouse stats.
He's putting up Mickey Mouse stats, writing his all my things take place in the same world. Yeah. No, my boy Steven Erickson is going to be the one that people remember. That's the Steph Curry.
Speaking of Russell Westbrook stuff.
Yep.
A lot of people gave Jokic shit for this during his MVP seasons about how people praised Russell Westbrook or praised Jokic seasons versus Russell Westbrook's triple-double seasons.
Yeah.
The real argument you can make is Luka. Because at least
harassment.
It is. At least outside of the season where their whole roster was broken, at least his teams are always near the top of the standings. Like Luka is fighting in the play-in right now, and that would be more so the flirting versus harassment if you want to compare the triple-double seasons across generations here.
Well, so they're heliocentric. Like Luka's not super heliocentric in the same way those other two guys are. Like if you can't incorporate this might be my new thing. Is Luka, Russell Westbrook. Yeah,
you're saying Jokic isn't heliocentric, or you're saying
I'm saying Jokic is not. I'm saying Luka and Russell are.
Sure.
Russell Westbrook and Luka, are they the same play? Like, are we going to get in 3 years? Is he going to be one of the worst contracts in the NBA in 5 years?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Trading Luka around.
I'm sure Luka is going to age poorly because he he counts so much on his jump out the gym athleticism.
Right, that's right. You cut that man off from his hookahs. You have no idea what that would do to a man's respiratory system. He's counting on that. That is why Luka needs to be in New York most of all. That man, there's so many smoke shops. Like he could hit so many hookah bars up. Like
get him away from this. Well, I mean, New York has all of. Well, the one thing I will say, no, they got rid of the Bloomberg soda law. Never mind.
Yeah, I was
gonna say. Remember when that that evil dictator tried to take away our double gulps?
Yeah, that was it.
Well, we know that Luka loves himself some sweet tea. He comes into training camp and fills up an entire gallon with sweet tea.
Eric Adams would help him with that. Eric Adams would do this.
He would get him a sponsorship.
Eric Adams loves standing in front of flags. He would declare Slovenian like National Day. Like he would do all of this stuff for you, Luka. I'm just saying you need to go to New York. You need to ask out of Dallas right away. Yep.
Yeah, you know how like Luka, you know how you've seen like Zubac and the way that he talks?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's interesting. The way that he imagine if the black mayor of your city talked like an Italian man from Brooklyn.
Here we go. Yes.
It's the reverse Zubac.
Pitching Luka on a case study of Eric Adams. Eric Adams can teach you how to grift. He's the master of this stuff.
Exactly. Friend of the podcast, Eric Adams.
For life. Yeah. Shout out to Eric.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You never know what's going to happen in New York, baby. You never know. One day you get a Luka Doncic trade. The next day, boom, it's 9/11.
God, he's awesome. I'm so sad that's like I moved out of New York right before Eric Adams took over. It's like one of the big regrets of my life. Like, had to be with that bozo De Blasio, De Bungler.
Yeah, we didn't even. I was there for De Blasio too. He was.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out to a Polly King, but I mean, come on, he's no Eric Adams.
Big Bird.
I said it's like New York Bears can only be insanely eccentric characters or like caricatures.
Yes.
Like Giuliani. Bloomberg wasn't an eccentric character, but he was just like, oh, what if we just made the richest man that's ever lived the mayor of the city?
Yeah,
and also ran him as an independent.
Right, yeah. No, that was essentially just running the fucking Uncle Pennybags from the Monopoly board game.
Yes.
Would you like to make the man on the community chest cards the mayor? Like,
bring back greatness to New York when Scrooge McDuck was the mayor of the city.
Luca could do this. I'm just saying, Luca, the New York politics is wide open. You could. Yeah. Kathy Polycule is out of there soon. You can start laying the seeds right now.
Let's go. Yeah. All right. So. Speaking of, we have to talk other canon. We talked about Luka. I didn't really get to finish my Giannis point here. I don't think that people realize that Giannis is averaging 30.8 points, 11.2 rebounds, 6.5 assists, shooting over 60% from the field. And look, his defense hasn't been as good this year, but he's still a very, very good defender.
Yeah, there's also only so much you can do. Like you could give fucking Gordon Ramsay turd. He still can't make a dish with that. It's inedible at some point. Like
the perimeter defense is just a disaster. Especially when Dame, Beasley, and Middleton are all healthy, where Middleton isn't as bad as on defense as those guys, but is not where he was years ago. Like he could still be attacked and exploited on the perimeter. And when they go up against teams that have real perimeter threats, there's only so much you can do. Like there are a handful of teams in the league where if you go off against them this year, I'm like, we'll put a little bit of an asterisk on that. Like if you're going off against the Pacers or the Hawks or the Mavericks or the Bucks, I'm like, all right, those are like the four worst perimeter defensive groups in the league, which to Giannis's credit and to Brook Lopez's credit, you can't quote me on this, but I believe their defense isn't bad when those two are both on the court, no matter who the perimeter defender is, which is pretty incredible when you consider the fact that it's that horrible pairing in front of them. And I think that's a point in Giannis's favor. So all right, Giannis, Shea's stats are 31.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 6.4 assists, shooting 54.6% from the field as a guard. As a guard, he is shooting 54.6% from the field. Holy shit. 38.5% from three and 88% from the line still. He gets to the line 8.9 times a game. Like, I do think that SGA's season is being underrated because everyone just knows Jokic is a better overall player. Yeah. He's also the steals leader in the NBA too, as Pitty points out in the comments. Like he's up towards the top of the league. I think if I have it correctly, and to be fair to Jokic, he's also near the top of the league in deflections. They're both big deflections guys. And I think part of that is the defensive systems that those teams run are heavily built around those guys getting steals and deflections. But if anything, like I said, that is a point in his favor, the fact that he can impact the game even if he isn't doing all of this crazy scoring stuff. So yeah, King's Muse. I just love all these Muse accounts.
Yeah, awesome.
King's Muse tweeted and said, most deflections in the NBA this year, SGA is first. He leads the league in deflections and steals. 225 deflections. Second place is Thibault with 209. Then you have Caruso, De'Aaron Fox, and then Jokic is fifth. Deflections per game, he's second, or he's tied for first with Caruso right now in deflections per game is SGA. So defensively, he's having a season that is like, in terms of defensive playmaking, up there with the best defenders in the NBA. So like, I do think you have to factor in the two-way ability of SGA and Giannis. And then with Jokic, his defense is like definitely good now. Like, I wouldn't say like there are nights where he can kind of phone it in and not really give a shit, but I think it's to the point where we can say that Jokic is a solid to good defender. And the question becomes because he is the best offensive player, how much more important is that than the two-way impact that Giannis and SGA can bring to the table?
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, this goes back, I hate to like reduce it back down to this, but do you remember when everyone was like asking, like, what does valuable mean? You know what I'm saying? Like you try to get to the center of like, where
Webster's dictionary defines valuable as
right. Well, do you remember? I'm trying to remember. There was one MVP season. I think it was the Kawhi, Russell Westbrook, Harden year, where like everyone was like, "Well, what does valuable mean?" You know, and everybody was like trying to like parse it off of that. And I think Giannis is probably the most valuable to his team in that I think that they would suffer the most for losing him.
Giannis or Jokic?
Giannis. I think Giannis is more important to his team than Jokic is.
I'm not sure I agree.
I don't know. They would be so bad. Like the Nuggets would be bad, but they would win like 35 games.
I don't think so.
The Bucks would win like 11 games.
The reason why I don't think that is the case because even though Dame is kind of washed, he scales up better than any player that's on the Nuggets. Like, I mean, there are games where Giannis will miss, and like he had 41 points the other night and they beat the Clippers. Like, I'm not saying that would be a regular occurrence, but in terms of being a number one option, I don't trust Jamal Murray at all. And I trust everyone else to be able to say, oh, you scale Dame up offensively, you scale Middleton up, I think I think that they could feasibly survive a month without him. And I don't think but that also might just come down to roster construction, because like the Sixers are dying without Joel Embiid, right? Like they're like they're 10-20 on the season. He's missed 30 games. They're 10-20 on the season. But a large part of that is due to the fact that they have built both the Nuggets and the Sixers have built their teams on those guys being healthy. And if they're hurt, nothing matters, because you're fucked if those guys are hurt. So the Giannis thing is more like they just happen to have a roster that might be built a little bit more to survive a longer amount without that guy. And honestly, they did it. They were kind of decent last year without Giannis. And it's part of the reason why I think that Jokic is in a unique scenario where he's incredibly important anytime he's on the court. He's incredibly important for the health of his team. I think Jokic and Embiid, this is why Jokic and Embiid have been 1 and 2 for the last few years. They're more important on a game-to-game basis than Giannis is to their team. It's not to say that they're leagues above Giannis or anything. I just think the way that these teams have been built, I think that they're a little bit more important to their teams.
I just think that I just think the two-way impact of Giannis, you're like completely killing your defense. You would be the worst defense in the NBA, bar none, anytime you removed Giannis. And I think his offense is important. And I don't think maybe Embiid is probably the only other guy like that in the regular season where it's like a huge, because like, I don't know, like you're not getting the same quality of shots, but you do have a lot of guys who can like do offense in Denver. This is getting off topic. I think Giannis should be strongly considered. I'm on record. I think Giannis should have won 3 in a row. I think he should have won the year that Jokic got his first one.
But then he wouldn't have won Finals MVP.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He had to lose that year.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think it's boring, but like I think Jokic is gonna win again. I think I still think he's had the best year. I think the Nuggets got less talented and they're still probably gonna go back to the finals. And I that's really impressive. Going to the finals in back-to-back years, you've got to be like a really good team to do that. A really good team.
They certainly are. I think that they are the team that should be considered
So do you want to talk a little bit about the Nuggets Celtics team? I didn't watch it, so I can't.
I didn't either.
Okay, well then never mind.
I went to sleep.
It was way too late for me too.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
was fading off towards the end. I didn't watch the second half. But
Celtics Matt was like, oh, it was like posting the ratings. I'm like, yeah, because you bent the knee to the horrid West Coasters. No sports event should be after 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'm sorry. The West Coast,
they don't give a fuck about sports.
They don't care. They don't care. And
their lives are cooler than ours. They have things to do.
They'll watch at 5:30. Yeah. I watch shit at 5:30 all the time. That's awesome. Actually, it's really cool for me when stuff starts that early because then I can just have my night.
Yeah.
Why are you having a 7 p.m. game? It's stupid. Really stupid. Yeah.
Yep. No, I totally agree. We East Coast supremacy. Totally agree.
No, we need to secede.
But in all seriousness, Brian's gonna freak out in the comments, but I had to bring this up because it's funny.
Oh.
My favorite thing about this last week is the entire media being like, well, I think Jason Tatum lost his chance at MVP. I think this week has cemented that Jason Tatum. And then I was like, you manufactured the whole thing.
Yeah.
No one was taking him seriously as a legit chance. Now, would he be down the ballot? Sure, he'll be down the ballot. But there was no one that was not a Boston Celtics fan that thought Jason Tatum really could win the MVP, that wasn't a hot take artist.
The last time Jason Tatum had the chance to win the MVP was 3 months into the season last year. So he was good. Yeah. He and Steph were both really good that year. Ever since then, no. And it really is like me. It'd be like me saying, well, I think Sam blew his chance at Dua Lipa now. That didn't stay up to. Yeah. Oh, no shit. Really? Yeah.
I would say 2024 is when Sam blew his chance.
Yeah. This was the year. Yeah. This is when it fell apart for me right here.
This is it's exactly like the thing that you talk about with the Miami Heat, where they find these guys off the scrap heap, where it's like, oh, we found this undrafted free agent from Folklore University,
right,
and we made him into a rotation player, and then they accidentally pay that guy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you're not supposed to get high on your own supply, dude.
What are you doing? You know that guy is bad. You're supposed to do what you did with Gabe Vincent and let him walk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what it reminded me of, where I was just laughing at the fact that there was like 2 weeks where it was like, oh, could Tatum win? And it's like, Tatum was never winning MVP, guys. Like, come on. Like, this is not the year to be arguing.
He was in the contention for first team All NBA, and now I'm a little worried about that for him, to be honest. I don't know if
he's going to get first team All NBA.
You think he'll get first team All NBA?
It's almost by default at this point, because the Embiid injury. If Embiid was healthy, he wouldn't have gotten first team. But
Shea, Luka, Giannis, Jokic,
Tatum.
Who's going to? There's one spot left. Yeah,
who's going to be the fifth guy? Otherwise, Donovan Mitchell's out now. He might not even qualify. By the way, he's coming close to missing the games played required. Maxey might make third team because Mitchell's out. Like I've gotten to that point where I'm like starting to look a little bit further down. Like, wow, how is this going to affect? There's really no one. I think someone just said in the comments he's officially out. He's missed too many games. So Mitchell's done. He was one of the guys that I thought. Maybe Brunson, but he's probably more of a second team guy. And the Celtics will have by far the best record, and they'll get a guy. Unless you I guess Anthony Edwards is a year or two away from being in this conversation.
Yeah.
I think that he's just kind of make it by default.
Okay. Sabonis?
No, they're never going to give Sabonis. After you want to talk about a guy that's going to get affected because of the way he played in the playoffs.
Yeah,
they're never going to give it.
I mean, I'm the one doing that. They just jettison him to hell.
Yeah,
his numbers are really good.
You and Kevin O'Connor, the two close friends from New England.
Yeah, we love it. We believe all the same things.
Yep, you have all the same shared opinions on every single facet of life. By the way, just to give Jokic a little bit of love here, because I didn't get a chance to read off his stats. 26.2 points per game. By the way, the on-off swings are a little bit fugazi because they never run their best lineups in the regular season, but they're still incredible when he's on the court, and they're still very bad when he sits. It's like a 20-point swing basically every year, which I do think matters. And he's averaging 26.2 points per game on 12.3 rebounds. His rebounding never really gets discussed, but he's probably like one of the 3 best rebounders in the NBA. 9.2 assists. Oh, Jesus. 58.2% from the field, 35% from 3, and 82.8% from the line. He's first in BPM. He's first in Darko. He's 4th or 5th in EPM, but most stats have him towards the top, if not at the top. So I think that there's an argument for both. Honestly, if I were voting today, it would be very close between SGA and Jokic for me. I think that I might even slightly lean SGA, but we'll see. The last 15 games here are very important for this, as Embiid proved last year, and Jokic kind of stopped trying, and Embiid pulled away. So I do think that that's probably what it's going to come down to here. And we'll see. We'll see. I don't really think there's anyone else worth discussing. No one else has a chance to win the award at all. Like, it's more so because of the injuries than anything. Like, Embiid's out.
Honestly, I don't even think Luka has a chance. Like,
no,
which is insane because he's 37, 9, and 9.
They'd have to make a run now and get the 4 seed, which they're way too far back. Like, I don't even know. I think they're only.
I don't even think that would do it, to be honest. Like, it's like impossible, which is crazy because again, 30, like whatever that is, 37, 9, and 9 or whatever.
Well, if you want to have the argument with if you want to have the argument for Luka, it's that he's putting up the most insane counting stats maybe I've ever seen in my life. Mm-hmm. If you want to have the argument against Luka, it's still the on-off stuff. It's still the record with him and without him. It's still all about, the fact that his team just isn't elite every time he's on the court in a way that almost all of these other guys are. And the team is slowly getting better, and maybe by the end of the season, the smaller sample will show that they're actually better when you put him with a nice supporting cast around him. But like right now, they're 5 games back from the Clippers for the 4 seed. There's no chance they catch up in the last.
There's so many. There's like 3 teams in between them and the Clippers. Like 2.
It's the Suns, the Kings, the Pelicans, and then the Clippers. So yeah, it's just that he'd have to do way too much. So enough of the MVP conversation. We'll talk a little bit more about all NBA as we get closer to the end of the season here and all the other awards as well. So speaking of KOC,
let's go.
Got to bring it up. Friend of the podcast, Kevin O'Connor, released his first mock draft of the year for the Ringer. I love that KOC's still the Ringer draft guy. It's great. Yeah. Which, look, you've said it before, and I have to give him credit. I do like the fact that he goes against the grain.
Yep.
Seems to be a common theme in his life. When it comes to this draft coverage stuff, you and him are really agreeing here. Once again, the number 1 guy on his board, I was shocked to see this, is Reed Sheppard of Kentucky.
What? I'm seeing 2 on the website right now.
Okay, so, but for the mock draft.
Oh, for the mock draft, it's 1. Oh.
1 to Spurs.
Interesting.
I don't know how he had the Spurs winning the lottery again, though. Don't they have the 3rd record? So I guess
are they worst? I think they have the worst winning percentage. I think they have 2 more wins, but they have the worst winning percentage. That can't be right, actually.
No. I'm pretty sure they're 3rd. I think that Washington and right now it's Detroit is 1 on Tankathon. Washington is 2. San Antonio is 3. Charlotte is 4. So it might be a Tankathon randomizer where.
Yeah, because he has the Grizzlies picking 3rd. So yeah, it's a randomizer.
Yeah, I just did it 3 times and I got the Spurs at the top of the draft here by doing it 3 times. So he has our guy from Kentucky, Reed Sheppard, at number 1 on the board for the San Antonio Spurs if they are selecting. I'm kind of at the point where I've watched enough of Kentucky I watch Kentucky more than any other college team in the country, and we're getting to March, so I'll watch even more as we get into the March Madness portion of the calendar. But I'm kind of at the point where I hear the argument for this. Like,
yeah,
I'm not a big take the best college player. And I watched them against Tennessee the other night, and Dalton Connect. I can never say his name.
Yes. Yeah.
He was fucking balling in that game. Completely different kind of prospect because he's like 23.
Right.
And Reed is a legit freshman, 19-year-old that, is dominating on both ends of the court in a way that even though he went off in that game, Reed was having more of an impact on both ends. And the thing about watching him that's so amazing is that he has these moments on defense where you're like, how did he block that? And then you look up his measurements, dude, he's 6'3" with like a 6'2" or 6'3" wingspan. Like he has like a neutral wingspan or maybe even slightly negative. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of unheard of for a guy with his dimensions, for a guy with his general just tools to be at the top of these draft boards and also have the amount of defensive impact that he does have. But I kind of think it's undeniable at this point that he's just one of the best two-way prospects in the draft.
Yeah, no, just in terms of, because he's small, right? And like we've seen this time and time again, small guards in the NBA, it's like you can't really do anything, but he's about as good at being a small guard defender as you can be. Like we've seen guys like Steph and Chris Paul like still be good defenders just by like.
I called him White Kyle Lowry at one point, but I don't know if that's a great comp.
White Kyle Lowry. I don't know if he's like
Lowry.
I don't know if he's like durable enough like that. He's just like
Lowry's Lowry. College Lowry is what I was thinking of.
He's got the dog.
Yeah,
he does have dog.
Yes,
he's got dog. So plus he's definitely plus factor on his dog tangibles. Mm-hmm. So and that's what makes me, because here's the thing is, I don't think Reed Sheppard's going to be an all-star at any point in his career.
Then you can't take him with the first pick in the draft.
Yes, you can. Because
I don't think so. That's where we disagree. That's where you're Bill and I'm Russillo.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think you could take someone that you. The argument that I'm going to have here is that I think that he can be an all-star.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
And the reason why is I'm like, okay, so this guy is by far the best shooter in college basketball this year. He is a stocks monster. The one thing that you're worried about with him is the ability to create his own separation and his own shot and whatever.
Sorry,
I see the comment.
I'm laughing at the piss cup.
It's not just because he's white.
Piss says that he's shocked that Yakub knows ball likes a white guy.
That is good. That is very good. But like I said, the thing with him is like the ability to create separation, the ability to be a high-level shot creator. I understand those concerns for sure. Yeah. If he gets drafted to the Spurs like this scenario, I kind of like he can be a dribble handoff partner with Wemby, and he can set up Wemby, and he can be a guy who is moved into more of a secondary role on offense, which is probably where he should be. And then defensively, he can kind of be a monster that's all over the place. Now, have you heard the main comp for him, which has been popping up among scouts and amongst like front offices, which I was surprised to hear? He's getting a lot of Steve Nash comps, like college Steve Nash. Like, but when you're talking about a guy that shoots the way that he does, so he changed his shot, Reed Sheppard, at one point, and like he was like a good shooter before, but then he just like decided to change his shot going into college. And I don't want to get into trouble here where sometimes we can overreact to the 3-point shooting in college, and like the sample isn't big enough for me to be like, yeah, this guy's going to be, it's the constant example we would use is Aaron Nesmith where
Yeah.
Neesmith, and honestly, look at Neesmith's shooting stats this year. He's kind of figured that out.
Yeah, he's
Like
back.
he's back up above 40%. Like now he's not one of the best shooters in the NBA, but it was something that was part of his game in a small sample in college. It was a half the sample of what Reed Shepherd has played so far. He only played in 14 games that year. He shot like 50% from three. Currently in college right now, in a major conference, and he is, I know he comes off the bench, but he's, if not their best player, their second best player. He is currently shooting 52.6% from three.
Yeah.
On 4.4 attempts per game. And he shoots 84% from the line, but he only gets the line twice a game. So there are certain elements of his game that if you want to project that star upside, you are a little bit worried. Doesn't get to the line a ton.
Yeah.
Doesn't create his own shot as much, like at a high, like a superstar level. But everything else is so good at his age that I'm just kind of willing to take the bet. And like, I don't know, Kentucky guard marketed efficiency. I feel I feel like we've gotten a pretty good idea that like they can churn out star guards into the NBA. Yeah. And I think that between the fact that he's actually performing way above where people thought he would, and the fact that he is this dominant two-way force who has elite shooting touch, like I think your worst case scenario with Reed Shepherd is that he's like smaller Derek White. And like, if I have the third pick in the draft, I'd be happy to get that guy.
Yeah. I just think this draft sucks. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you have to, well, no, I shouldn't say that.
The draft is international, and I don't.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
That's
what I'm saying. I don't have strong opinions on.
Yeah, I'm xenophobic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know there's a Sarr brother in there somewhere. Yeah. There's the guy. There's the French guy.
Yeah.
There's Topic.
There's multiple French guys, which already scares me.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you get a Killian. Sometimes you get a Boris Dio. Which one are you getting? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It's the life of Pablo. Which way? Yeah. But I do want to point out, Kevin. Someone brought this up. Is like KOC tends to sometimes go against the grain with these, and like I said, I appreciate that when it comes to draft stuff.
Yeah.
Not as much when it comes to his politics. But I do think that when you're talking about the board here, someone said in the Discord, is this more Brandon Miller? And he went against not even against the grain, but was against draft Twitter, I should say, because draft Twitter had Scoot at 2. He had Brandon Miller at 2. And he was right. It's pretty obvious Brandon Miller is going to be better than Scoot.
Yes. No, he and our beautiful guy Dean just absolutely owned me. I was all in on Scoot, and I got to call it at least on that one. Yeah.
But the other end of that is you have the Killian Hayes one or Mo Bamba, where he puts Mo Bamba at 5 or 4. And he puts Killian Hayes at 1. And it doesn't turn out that great, but the draft is not a perfect science. I knew a lot of smart people who had these guys high too. It's not like he was the only one. But people in the Discord said this, and I agree with them. This feels more like a Brandon Miller pick to me than a Killian Hayes pick.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
Because there's a highly productive SEC player. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's way more indicators of a normal play. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, honestly, there was I think Brandon Miller would have been higher on a lot of people's boards, but there was one thing.
One off the court.
Yeah. There was one thing in particular that probably gave people a little bit of pause there, So I think Reed is, as far as American college players, I think he's far and away the best pick. I understand people see Rob as higher upside. When have we seen guys who are projects like that really pan out? You know what I'm saying? That kind of struggle in I was Jaylen Brown the last one who was not.
Rob isn't even really a project to me. It's more I have concerns about both of. It's just size with both these guys.
Yeah,
they're both very good basketball players. Jalen is more of the tools raw Cam Whitmore type prospect from last year.
Yeah.
Whereas Rob is more like he gets comped to these guys that came from Kentucky, like Maxey and Monk and those kind of guys. I do think that he's a very good college player, but I do think we might need to pump the brakes a little bit, only because I actually really like Rob. This isn't really fair to him, but Maxey had great tools. Maxey had long arms. He was, incredibly bursty, incredibly good at attacking closeouts, showed elite touch. Rob showed some of that. He's not quite not quite the same kind of player. Monk was like jump out the gym, insane jumps off the tape athleticism when you watched him in a way that I don't really get. I haven't watched enough to be like, for sure, I feel this way, but I need to see more from him in terms of, I definitely think he has star upside, to be clear, but he's like 6'2", and he's very small, doesn't have long arms, kind of frail for a guy of his archetype. And I worry more about that than I worry about anything specifically in his game. And it's the same thing with Reed, where I'm like, there just aren't many defensive stoppers in the NBA that don't have incredibly long arms or elite top-tier athleticism. And that's what I worry about with both of them, is like, is Rob big enough? Like, can he be big enough to be a star guard in the NBA? And like, Maxey is probably the outlier, not the rule. Like, Maxey is really one of one in terms of a blend of speed, touch, long arms. Like, he really is this crazy, like I said, I like Maxey a lot in the draft, but also he's blown past the expectations of what I thought he was going to be in the NBA. I thought he was going to be like a guy that might make an all-star team at some point, not like a surefire guy that's probably going to make all NBA teams. So that's a little, like, I do think that we might go a little bit overboard with some of the size concerns with these guys from year to year. I'm just like, draft good basketball players and they'll figure it out. Like, works 9 times out of 10. But when you're 6'2", and like, I think his dimensions are not like, he doesn't have super long arms, and he doesn't have insane like athleticism that pops on tape, then I'm a little bit, I'm concerned about both of them with that regard. But I mean, I think they're good basketball players. I'd be surprised if they both aren't like solid rotation guys for a decade, but I don't know what level that they can reach.
Yeah. I think that's I think that's all fair. It's just so hard for me to see an American, like, there just aren't a lot of guys who pop for me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There's one other guy.
Cody Williams.
I was just gonna say, is he the Colorado kid?
That's Jalen Williams' younger brother. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Very
We're
interesting.
getting into some brother theory here.
Very interesting, because he's like the only other one. He's like the older. I did like my nerd stuff.
Jacoby Walter too, who's near the top of the, but he's like Malik Beasley. Like, he's like movement shooter, probably gonna stick, but like, I'm not sure about his upside.
Yeah, I was gonna say not a lot of upside. Let me pull up Cody Williams.
I like Cody Williams. I think that Rob and Reed are very different players, obviously. Right. Cody's a wing. I haven't watched a ton of him. I watched a little bit. He doesn't have the statistical indicators that those guys have. When you watch him and his ability to score inside the arc, he's a lot frailer than his brother right now. Like, I think, if I remember correctly, I think even Jalen was a little bit of a late riser, like, in terms of like,
I think he was a junior when he came out.
He was a junior, and he also rose up boards. Like, he was supposed to be end of the first round, second round pick, and then he became a lottery pick towards the draft.
I remember he had a crazy shooting year, and I don't remember what his 3-point numbers were, like, his like freshman and sophomore years, but I know that like his shooting kind of carried him up draft boards, like that year. Like,
he was a dribble pass shoot guy, And the thing with Cody is like, the shooting isn't quite there yet. He's also 19, but he's like 6'7", and he shoots like 60% from 2 as a freshman wing
Yeah,
in a major conference.
Yeah. He's in Pac-12, right? Like he's in the Pac-12.
Colorado. Yeah,
like
high recruit.
yeah,
Like he has the indicators of like surefire starting wing in the NBA.
right. Yeah,
That is that. What is going to determine his ceiling is the same thing with his brother. What level does he get to as a defender and a shooter? And his brother has hit higher outcomes than anyone ever expected after his freshman and sophomore years. If he develops the same way that his brother does, and even by the end, like I think if Cody stayed for 2 more years in college, he would probably get the same. He would hit the same statistical marks that his brother did by the time like his sophomore or junior year happened. But he's still pretty raw. He's still pretty undersized in terms of like physical weight. But like you get him into an NBA strength and conditioning program, and you have a guy who's just like incredibly versatile as a scorer and could potentially be like the guy that everyone is looking for. Then yeah, he's going to work out great. Like I mean, he's really good. He's just a good basketball player.
2 inches taller than his brother.
He is taller than his brother. What is he? 6'8"?
6'8", yeah.
Yeah,
And
he's big.
He's weighs less though.
Yeah, he's a lot thinner than his brother right now. But his brother put on weight as he got older and became the guy that he is now.
Can I read you something from KOC's guide?
Sure.
A below the rim leaper without a leap burst off the bounce. Okay, now I'm going to read you something from his guide. Unless he has space to launch, he's a below the rim finisher without much burst off the dribble. So those are both KOC's opening negatives for
Jalen
Williams
and Cody
and Jalen Williams.
That's so funny. I wonder if he just went back and he read that.
Maybe not, but it's interesting. That makes me feel a lot better about him.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of indicators there. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up like going like top.
He's going to go top 5.
Yeah,
he's going top 5. Where does KOC have him on his board?
I think 6 or something. 5. No, he hasn't 5. No,
yeah, I was going to say I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't go top 5, only because the archetype. Everyone is looking for that player. Like everyone is looking for that kind of, and even if he doesn't become the guy you think he's going to become, if you think that you can mold the shot, that's all that you have a playable wing who can score and shoot. 10-year NBA career now. Like it's like it's pretty much like it's like almost locked in that if you're like you're fucking Torian Prince is still getting the fucking tax MLE because he's 6'7" and isn't the worst player on the court all the time. Sometimes he is. Sometimes according to Darvin Ham, he's fucking Kevin Durant 2.0. But yeah, like there are the wings will always get the benefit of the doubt from these NBA teams. They're almost always the ones. I feel like, you know how for years the bigs were the ones that always bust, like were the biggest busts at the top of the draft.
Yeah.
I feel like starting with like Josh Jackson, Kevin Knox, those kind of guys, I feel like we're going to see a larger, even larger influx of busts who are wings though.
Well, it's because it's the most valuable position.
Exactly. And the same thing as the bigs in the 90s and the 2000s, and when they were the thing that everyone wanted and needed, then it was just more likely that they were going to bust.
Right. Well,
Lord, I'm about to bust.
You're willing to take bigger risks to get a player of higher value, right?
Yeah.
That it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you want Jason Tatum and a Jaylen Brown. You know what I'm saying? You want those type of guys. Like,
yeah.
That's why Jason Tatum hangs around all these MVP conversations because he's a wing.
Well, yeah. Also Boston Media Mafia, but yeah, sure.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But I do see that's a spicy one. Oh, he's never seen Furphy play.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Lyle in the comments said Johnny Furphy greater than signed Cody Williams, but he just likes Johnny Furphy's name. I do like Johnny Furphy a little bit. I've been watching some of the guys that are in the Sixers range right now, and Furphy's a 6'9" wing who can shoot. Sign me up. That's all we need.
Can I say something gross?
Do you want to talk about Dalton?
Well, I've been turned on to Dalton by I have some Tennessee people because I've been talking a lot of Reed Shepherd shit, and people have been sending me like Dalton's like box scores, and it's pretty impressive. I wish he wasn't 29 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish he wasn't 29 years old.
Yeah.
But
he's gonna die soon from old age.
yeah, he's actually he
years
fought
younger
World
than
War One. He came back. It's on his 30th year of eligibility.
Yeah.
No, but again, major conference. Definitely putting up the numbers. Best player on his team. You know, like he's an NBA player. I'm pretty sure Dalton Neck's an NBA player. You know what I'm saying? I just don't know how good. I don't know if that's like 6-man off the bench type guy. You know what I'm saying? Or is that like genuine starter to like low tier all-star? You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of weird with these old guys because I never know what to do with like improvement and stuff like that. You know, like it's kind of, they're one of the hardest things for me to, like Mikal Bridges is a good example, right? Like came out older.
Yeah, but the thing with Mikal Bridges and the majority of these guys that pop when they're a little bit older, first off, Mikal Bridges was still 2 years younger than Dalton when he.
Yeah, that's true.
That's like Dalton's old. Like Dalton's 23.
Yeah.
On draft night, like he turns 23 in a few weeks.
Yeah.
So that is something that you're building in.
Yeah.
The difference between him and the majority of these guys that pop when they're a little bit older is that he changed his situation. He transferred from Northern Colorado to Tennessee. This is his first year at Tennessee. And he's him at Tennessee in a major conference and was at a nobody school dominating a bunch of nobodies, so no one took him seriously. Yeah. And now it's basically what Austin Reeves did a few years ago. Well, except Austin Reeves, if I remember correctly, Austin Reeves might have even went to Wichita State, which is like a legit school, and was a shooter there. And then they moved him to Oklahoma, and he became more of an on-ball guy, and he grew into the role that he became. Yeah. But if you want to look at a success story for Dalton, it's probably like Austin Reeves.
Yeah.
That kind of story where like goes to a major conference, really shines. The difference is that Dalton has legitimately probably been the best player in the country this year. And like he dropped 40 something in a college game the other day. Like I never see that. And at a minimum, he's going to be, like you said, bench shooter, like maybe 6-man type. I don't know if he'll ever get there as a passer to be a ball handler like that. But I think maybe you're looking at a Buddy Hield type guy where it's just like elite shooter, decent size. You can run actions with him sometimes, but normally you want him to be more off the ball, dribble handoff partner, coming off screens, pin downs, whatever. And I think he's a pretty safe pick. In a regular draft, I don't know if he would be in the lottery though. I think he would be in the teens.
Can I scare you real quick?
Yeah. By the way, I see Jonathan's comment about me never beating the allegations. It's true. All of the prospects that I like are white, and it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
I'm running through, so I feel like it's pretty much locked that Dalton's going to end up being the Naismith Player of the Year this year. I would guess. Yeah. Let me run through this list. Going backwards, Zach Edey, Oscar Tshiebwe, Luka Garza, Obi Toppin. Okay, then we have Zion Williamson. Okay, all right. Like, then we have Jalen Brunson. Okay, then Frank Mason, Buddy Hield.
Okay,
Frank Kaminsky, Doug McDermott, Trey Burke.
Okay, so like I said,
that's a lot of not good guys.
Okay, but hear me out.
Yeah,
throw the bigs out the window.
Yeah, I guess
completely different.
So, that's true.
Even Obi Toppin was like 6'10" or 6'9", whatever he is.
Yeah, and
jumping out the gym, athleticism, dominating at Dayton, whatever.
Yeah,
Zach Edey has a chance to be an NBA player. I don't think he's like gonna be a meaningful NBA player. He's probably just a backup center.
Yeah,
I still don't think that like I think those like the Luka Garza, Zach Edey types, and Zach Edey's much larger than Luka Garza, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
They're guys that probably would have been better 15, 20 years ago in the NBA if they were drafted to have better NBA careers than in the modern game where the bigs, they just have to be more skilled nowadays, it feels like. But you throw out the bigs, the guards are kind of hit or miss. But the one thing that guys that do succeed in the NBA have is like Jalen Brunson was a great ball handler and shooter in college. Buddy Hield was a great ball handler and shooter in college.
Yeah.
Dalton is a great ball handler and shooter in college and has legit size.
Yeah.
Like he's 6'6". Like it's not like he's 6'2", and like we're concerned about. Like I'm pretty certain, as long as the defense isn't a disaster, which I think it could be possible in the NBA. As long as it isn't a disaster, he'll have an NBA career. And even if it is a disaster, he might just have a Doug McDermott career.
Well, that was the other comp I was going to make, because Doug McDermott. But I think Dalton's a better ball handler. Doug McDermott was never really a ball handler. He was kind of like a.
Well, in college he was, but the defense was a disaster. Even in college, he was a bad defender. Doug McDermott had like a historically low block and steal rate for a guy that got drafted in the lottery, and Dalton does not have that.
He was also just kind of like scoring out of you know what I'm saying? Like he was a ball handler, but he was also like posting guys up and like shooting off pin downs and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like he was like taking guys off the dribble or like slashing.
I don't think this is new. Jimmer Fredette just dropped, but we'll see. We'll see. Someone, Ricky O'Donnell tweeted this and said that he's like the perfect college player. Like he's like a blend of Adam Morrison and JJ Redick. Is what he said. And honestly, if you blended those two together and put them in 2024, that's probably a long career, just because shooting is so important.
I still don't totally understand why Adam Morrison was dog shit in the NBA. Like, I still don't totally get that one. Like,
I remember watching. Well, first off, he got drafted to the worst team of all time in the Charlotte Bobcats.
That's true, yeah.
But then again, if he was going to be like a legit guy, he would have proved. Like, it's I think some of that context shit is a little bit overrated. But if I remember correctly, it was like lack of athleticism coupled with injuries. Like it was just kind of like, and he got drafted to a dog shit franchise, so he was just kind of fucked from the jump, and like was just once you fall out as a top pick, it's really hard to make your way back unless you are. I feel like the guys that really get second and third chances, like the Reclamation Project guys, are almost always bigs or like athletic wings.
I mean, there's guard like it's defense first guards too, like Chris Dunn and Dante Exum kind of made their way back with that. Yeah,
Dante Exum's been great this year.
Yeah, like but that's the thing is it's really hard to like, or you could be Jarrett Culver and you're gone.
Yeah, you're done. Bye-bye.
You're like vaporized.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen, like, he didn't catch on anywhere at all, which is like crazy. Like usually guys like hang around a little bit. He was just gone.
Culver was in and out of the league so fast. And he was the 6th pick in the draft. Like I don't even think he made it to a second contract.
I liked him a lot in that draft too. Like I thought that was a great pick by the Wolves. I can't believe how like bad he went. Another
costed was Dario Saric, and the pick that became Cam Johnson. Oops.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because the Suns were the ones that got killed for trading back. And then Cam Johnson, they stole Cam Johnson from me. I was very sad because I wanted Cam Johnson and we got Thibault instead. But anyway.
Yeah.
I was just so shooting pilled in 2019 at the draft. 2018, I was like, get Mikal Bridges, he can shoot. 2019, or Michael Porter Jr. 2019, I was like, get Grant Williams or or Cam Johnson. They both can shoot. That's all I care about. Yeah. Guys with size who can shoot. Okay. So let's move on to our last point.
Let's go.
Pelicans. Are we sleeping on them? Are we taking a nap on the New Orleans Pelicans? Are we getting real sleepy over here?
I am. This is the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm going to go Bill mode here for a second. The New Orleans Pelicans have plied me with wine multiple times and gone through my wallet and made a charcoal rubbing of my credit cards too many times. There's only so many times that a Sephora charge can pop up on my card for $200 before I say enough is enough. I'm done with this until next year. And that is where I'm at with the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm sorry. I just don't trust you to stay healthy. I know they're killing it. Like I know, like they check all the boxes, right? They have so much fucking talent, and they have so many big names, so many like, giant stars. I'm really, I can't like. They have Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, What was it? What was the point? I think I saw this, that Windhorse made this point that like pretty much when Trey Murphy scores like however many points, they're like
20 points or
20
don't
points
lose.
or something. They like don't lose. Like there's like a giant swing there with like Trey Murphy and like how available he is. I guess, and they have the wing size, they have all the defenders, they check all these boxes, they have supposedly the guy with the capacity to be a top 5 player in Zion Williamson. There's not a lot to doubt, but something feels weird. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a vibes pick for me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. Yeah, as Jonathan says in the comments, March is the perfect time to talk about the Pelicans, and I totally agree with that. Like,
are they the Mickey Mouse March merchants?
They might be, but I think it goes back like further than Mickey Mouse.
They've been very good for a little bit now. So yeah. I have so yeah, Rob commented and said Andrew Lopez said on the pod when Trey Murphy scores 15 or more points, they're 11-0. By the way, do you know what Trey Murphy is averaging since February 1st?
16 points per game?
15.4 points per game, okay. 4.7 rebounds, 1.9 assists. He's shooting the shit out of the ball, similarly to Herb Jones. And when he is making shots, it's like, he had a fucking, like, I swear to God, it was like a 30-foot pull-up in transition against the Sixers the other night. And I was just like, this guy should not be able to shoot. Like, he's 6'9". Like, you shouldn't be able to shoot the way that he does. And one of the reasons why I was a little bit lower on them was because I thought that he was going to take that next step. And he had a preseason knee injury, the meniscus injury. Mm-hmm. He didn't come back until a little bit later. And it took him some time. But once he got like 30 games under his belt, ever since, he's been kind of playing the way that I expected him to. And that changes their ceiling a little bit.
Yes. Me. Agreed. Yep.
If he is, because I kind of, when we did our tier ranking, I had a Pelicans fan tweet at me and be like, hey, I think you guys are kind of sleeping on the fact that they could maybe upset someone in the 4-5, like the Clippers. They played the Clippers really well. The defensively, like you said, Herb and Trey and Dyson Daniels is out, but like maybe if Dyson Daniels comes back at some point, they have the defenders that they can throw at
Alvarado,
Paul George, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, whoever. The thing with them, and I texted my buddy Andrew, who is at Sports Drink. He owns a cafe in New Orleans, and he is all about the Pelicans' ability to win a first-round series this year. So he texted me, and I said, anything you want me to say? He said they're second in net rating since the in-season tournament, which is like the last 40 games.
That's pretty impressive. That's really good.
I think they're fourth in net rating right now in the NBA. By the way, they're one of 3 teams that are top 10 in both offense and defense. The other 2 are the Thunder and the Celtics. They are lower than those teams. Like they're like 7th in offense and 10th in defense or whatever. But like still
that's something.
Top 10 in both.
Yep.
He also said their starting lineup, which I said I was most worried about, is now like a +7 in net rating since January 1st, which was the thing that I worried the most about. Is their best players, how do they fit together? And that's still my biggest concern with them, is that in a playoff series, can you play 3 guys who, now Zion's defense has been better recently. Like he's gotten a little bit more of the vertical pop back. Like that's the one thing I came out of that game against the Sixers and the Pelicans the other night. Like the Sixers had no chance in that game because there was no Joel, no Maxey, whatever. They fought their way back. They had a Mickey Mouse come back and they got fucked over by the refs at the end of the game. I was pissed. But Zion in his first this is Brett Usher tweeted this. Zion Williamson in his first 38 games had 14 blocks. First 38 games, he only had 14 blocks. In his last 19, or he has 19 blocks in his last 15 games. And the bounce and the athleticism looks legit. Like it looks like he's not ever going to be the same athlete he was in college, but he might be a good enough athlete to be a guy that they're running more offense through him. They've been doing this point Zion thing for a little bit now, since like basically January. And his defense needs to be better, but it might get to the point where it's at least passable. And since February 1st, he's averaging 22.5 points and 6.5 assists. as they're running more offense through them. So like there is a formula for them where they can make a little bit of a push here down the stretch, get into that. They're in the 4-5 right now. And then if they get the Clippers or the Thunder or the Wolves, I don't think they're dead on arrival at a minimum.
No, yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Yeah.
They could win some games in that series, and who knows what happens from there.
Yeah, Denver's a bad matchup for them, but outside of that, I think a lot of the other teams are.
Denver's a bad matchup for every team in the NBA.
Not the Wolves, but
the Wolves.
The Wolves.
They're a bad matchup. They would beat the Wolves in a series.
Ow.
Not the Naz Reid Wolves, actually. I know they're 1-2 in those games, but Naz Reid has been like incredible, and I was like, new Draymond Green, David Lee just dropped.
I'm just saying, like I don't want to say I said it, I called it, but
yeah,
Cat Ewing theory going 1-2. I'm calling it the Cat Ewing theory when they've lost more games than they've won.
They're 1-2 in the
yeah.
To be fair to them, the one was on the second half of a back-to-back, which these fucking okay. If you want to do the shitty scheduling NBA and put all these games back-to-back and do 5 games in 8 nights or whatever, don't put the second half of a back-to-back on national television.
Yes, that's like 101. 101, don't do that.
Cavs Wolves, the Wolves were dead at the end of that game. They went to overtime and they had no chance.
Yeah.
Because they were second half of the back-to-back. Why would you put that game on TV? Get your shit together, dude.
Just schedule it for the good one, you know? Like, come on. I don't know.
It makes no fucking sense, dude.
They just need fewer games. Just fewer games. Just like we promise we'll forgive you.
Yes.
70 games. 70 games. And they'll be so much better. The games will be so much better.
Yeah, just said that's like putting Knicks Sixers on national television.
Oh yeah.
The game the other
night.
What
did that game end up 70-6, 72? Is that what it was?
I think the final score was 76-73. It was the lowest scoring game since 2015.
Jesus.
And all right, hold on. Let's see. And by the way, it's there on national television again tonight. At least OG and Maxey are back for that game. But yeah, it was 79-73. The Sixers.
Oh my god!
It was the Magic in the game prior to that. The Magic and the Knicks played, and the Magic were the first team to score under 75 points in like 5 years or something, I think. And then literally right after that, the Knicks, they scored 74, and then literally right after that, the Knicks scored 73. So, but yeah.
They gotta let them like flex these games out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I guess I don't know what you would put in because the other options are also bad. Washington, Memphis, Indiana, OKC. I guess Indiana, OKC. I don't know. Actually, maybe it's fine. The only other one is Houston, San Antonio. They're all bad games tonight.
Yeah, not a great schedule.
Yeah.
But Rob is mentioning in the comments the Clippers and the Pels. The Pels match up well with the Clippers, but if the Clips lose to the Pels, they need to blow it up. The Clippers should have like the best player and 3 of the 4 best players in that series. I do agree. I also would like to see them either start Trey Murphy or close with Trey Murphy, because that would be a really interesting lineup for me to see. And if they're going to win a series, I think that is the way that they can possibly do it. Start multiple big wings that can shoot and defend and kind of figure it out from there. But if all right, let's just rank real quick.
Okay.
If they get the 4-5 matchup, if the Pelicans have a chance to win, number 1 team they can beat, who do you think it is? Of the Thunder, Wolves, Clippers?
I still think people would say I believe in the Wolves more than most people. I think if we like polled the audience, I think Wolves would probably be number 1.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The one thing I will say is that Zion apparently has historically dominated Rudy Gobert.
Let's go.
So if that is the case, I mean, look, you're not going to run your whole offense in the playoffs through Zion in the post, but you might run some of it. And if he's historically had success against Gobert, then I think that could be a scenario where they could potentially have an upset, especially with, look, I know you're not as crazy if they if Towns is apparently going to come back during the playoffs, which I think could be a bad thing. Like, I'm not saying that I think they need Karl Anthony Towns, but I also think that him just getting thrown into a playoff series fresh off a meniscus tear might not be ideal.
Absorbing another bad playoff, like, because they'll blame him, like, cat has no dog, scaredy cat, they just to let him
setting him up for failure.
Yeah, right. Like, it's fine
for sure. But they might need him. We'll see how they perform down the stretch, and then we'll make. Yeah. So I would go Minnesota 1, I'd go Clippers 2, I'd go Thunder 3, and I would go Nuggets 4 in terms of chances of the Pelicans winning a playoff series this year. Yeah. Now, if they win and they get in a row, they get the the Wolves and the Clippers, I'm very interested to see how that shakes out. I'm very interested to see, the Clippers and then the Wolves. Then maybe we're talking about conference finals potential, but I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I would be really entertained by Thunder Pelicans. I think
that would be great.
Would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, both up and coming teams, very young, lot of good talent on both ends of the court. It would be a great series. All right. So before we get out of here, speaking of meniscus injuries, the Wolves said in 4 weeks, Karl Anthony Towns he's going to be reevaluated on the last day of the regular season.
Okay.
Joel Embiid tore his meniscus.
Yes.
5 weeks ago, he had surgery. And they told us that 4 weeks they were going to fucking update us. They said, you'll have an update in 4 weeks after this surgery. Joel came out to the press and they asked him how he was doing last week, and he was like, I feel fine. I feel okay. During the Sixers game the other day, the national TV broadcast is like, he's in good spirits. I'm like, you have pancreatic cancer? What the fuck is happening?
What does that mean?
He tore his meniscus, and he had the surgery, and I'm assuming that the recovery is going well. Like, why can the Sixers just never have a normal fucking update with one of their players? Is it because they're afraid that if they say he could miss the rest of the season, that ticket sales will go down? Is it because they want the rest of the team to think that he could come back so they try harder? Like, what is the purpose of just stringing us fucking along over the course of this? Either tell us he's playing or tell us he's not. Right now, the update from Ramona Shelburne, which was a leak that she had today. And by the way, if it's coming from Ramona, it's almost directly from Joel for sure.
Yeah.
The hope is that in Philly is that they can have him come back into the mix the last week or so of the season, at least where he's a chance to get back some conditioning before the playoffs. Now, the optimistic timeline was 2 weeks from now. And now we're talking about a week or two after that. So it's going to have been 8 to 9 weeks since the meniscus surgery, which is basically the longest amount of possible recovery time for him. I was told it's basically an either or thing. You either play or you don't. It's not if there are complications from this surgery, it means there's a much bigger problem here.
Yeah.
And I'm just sick of them fucking stringing everyone along and being like, maybe the end of March, maybe the beginning. Who's to say? And I'm like, it's your job. Literally just fucking tell us. You said you were going to do it in 4 weeks. It's been fucking longer than that. Just be normal. Be normal for once. It drives me absolutely fucking insane that they keep doing this.
I'm getting a call from Sixers P. Hello? What? It depends on how many ticket sales you guys get for the next 3 weeks. Well, that doesn't seem right. And what's this?
Flash sale.
You also need people to vote on zoning for the new stadium in Center City. That's so interesting. I would have never thought that. Okay. Well, I'll pass that along. Yeah, I guess you guys have to approve the. By the way, did we talk? I don't think we talked about that on the podcast. I'm sorry. I know it's not my place. Loser shit of your city, the Sixers to go to Boston fans and ask them, how do you like having the garden in the middle of the city?
Dude.
I was like, you have no idea. Like that is like one of the most offensive things, because I've been to Philly and seen how good this sports setup is. It's pretty much the platonic ideal. Transit, parking, all of them are right there. You can fucking you can gig it. If they had that in Boston and somebody tried to move it, it would be like the Troubles again. Yeah. It would be the Troubles just in Boston, like what happened again. Yeah. Like, so that was such a whack thing for them to do. Like
the Sixers plans going to the Boston and asking the fans what it's like to have a team or have their stadium in the middle of the city and how much they like it.
Yeah,
would be like trying to recruit Republican voters and being like, we talk to these Antifa members, what they think about liberty.
Yeah.
like what? Like whose idea was that?
Yeah.
To put that out there, it got trashed on social media. Yeah. I mean, it's just classic fucking their disconnection. And all of this just comes back to the fact that ownership is these fucking venture capital fucking losers from New York. It's all that. It all comes back to the guys running it are people from New York that came in here and no one likes them here. And they basically do everything wrong at every turn because they don't have any connection to the city and they're just trying to siphon as much money out of the city as they possibly can.
No, they're trying to do what the Nets, what they did with the Nets, where it's like move them, buy real estate, find a way to get zoning in the middle of the fucking city and just buy that real estate and then just control the fucking real estate. It's such a
my thought originally on this was they were trying to get the city to shoot down this plan.
So they could move it?
So they could move it to Camden, New Jersey and get tax breaks. And they have their practice facility and shit set up over there already. Like, it would be beneficial to the owners if they moved it to New Jersey, is all I'm saying.
Is it still the Philadelphia 76ers?
Of course it would be. I mean, it's the same way the New York Giants and the New York Jets are the...
Yeah, I guess that's true. Or the New Jersey. Yeah. That's true.
People would try to, burn down the stadium if they did that. Yeah. But
it's also, by the way, it's also very funny that they asked Celtics fans about that, because it's literally an identical situation where the Bruins are the ones who fucking own the Garden. It's like the Flyers.
Oh, do they? I didn't even know that.
Yes. So it's the same fucking like thing. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's an identical fucking setup.
Well, I learned recently that Comcast actually sold their portion of the Sixers to the current owners. So they did own part of the Sixers at one point. I didn't even know that. I didn't care about this 10 years ago, whenever it happened. Yeah. But so they knew that this was potentially something that could happen, and they just fucked around. And yeah. But long story short, the Sixers drive me insane. There's really nothing to talk about when it comes to the Sixers until Joel's back. So that's why we haven't been talking about them recently, but hopefully we get an update sometime in the next week and they could be fucking normal. Sign up for the Patreon if you haven't already. The Patreon episode we did last week was really, really funny and really good, and probably will get us killed if it ever gets released into the public. That's the best advertisement I think I could ever have for the Patreon episode. And also this week on Playback, I'm going to try to stream for Sixers Bucks, assuming Tyrese Maxey plays in that game. Thursday night, I'm going to stream for Sixers Bucks. And then Wednesday, I'm stealing this idea from the Timeline guys who have the Suns podcast, but they do these hater watch streams where you watch all the teams that are in the standings around you, and then you just root against them. So I'm going to be watching like the Pacers and the Heat and all those teams just watching. So if you want to join me for that, the hater energy, I'll be on there for Wednesday night.
I could join a Heat hater stream. I can dabble.
They lost to the Wizards the other night, so you never know. You could get them upsetting literally the best teams in the NBA or them losing to the worst teams in the NBA, so you never know. So thank you for joining. Enjoy the weather. Have fun, folks. We'll see you later in the week in the Patreon. Bye. Take care.